Hi everyone. Today, for my training video, I'm going to be going over the entire business development process. I always tell BD specialists that they're lucky because they get to skip a couple of the steps that a salesperson has to enter in. For starters, a business does not get entered as a lead like a prospective resident does. It gets entered immediately as an account, and beyond that, there's no opportunity associated. So for business development specialists, it's super nice because you enter an account if it doesn't already exist, and then you enter contacts, people who work at that business account. And from there, you just add activities based off of those contacts. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go in and enter a new account and then add contacts, people who work at that account, and then add some tasks and events and show you what that looks like in the sales process in Salesforce for business development. First thing you want to do when you get in touch with a new business is see if they exist already. And this is especially important if you're a business development specialist working and joining a community that had a BD specialist before you. So you want to do a search. So let's say that I am in touch with a new hospital called Chris's Hospital. So I'm going to type in Chris Hospital up here, hospital, and I'm going to do a search by hitting enter. So if I do a search on this name, I don't see any leads, I don't see any contacts, I don't see any accounts called Chris's Hospital. So that leads me to believe that this does not exist in Salesforce yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go hover over accounts. I'm going to click on here on the little arrow that drops down, and I'm going to do new account. So from here, it's going to ask me what type of account is this. It's not a household account, obviously, because I'm doing this for business. So I'm going to select business account here, and I'm going to hit next. I'm going to add this business account. This is going to be the account name. This is going to be the name of the business. So if you're working with someone who works for the company, you always want to start off with the company's name and do that as a hierarchy. So if you're working with someone from CVS, you don't want to name that person as the business. The business is CVS. That person is a contact at the business or an employee. So for my situation, the account name is going to be Chris's Hospital or Chris Hospital. I'm going to put that in as the account name. The initial community interest, this is going to be the community that you are adding this on behalf of. Obviously, sometimes it can be for multiple communities, but you can add the one that you think they're going to give you the most leads, preferably too. So I'm going to go ahead and say Brighton Valley since it's here next to the home office. Description can be a short description about the account, maybe how you found them, what type of relationship you have with them, stuff like that. You don't want to get too specific here because that's what the tasks and events are for. So you can just say that you stumbled across this hospital at like an event or expo, right? At an event. That way you always know how you found them if anyone is looking, or maybe if someone's helping out at your community, they know how you found this hospital. First contact date is going to be the first time you had contact with them. So let's say we met on Monday. I can select that. If they have a website, you can put that website in here. So I'll say www.kh.com. Obviously, that's probably not valid, but we'll go with that with my fake hospital. The industry is a required field. So from here, you're going to say what type of industry this hospital is in. Obviously, this is super important because then we can run reports, list views, things like that on different industries for active businesses that you have in the system. Same thing goes if you ever want to send out mailers or mass emails or anything to businesses. We can always distinguish it by industry. So I'm going to go ahead and say medical here for the industry since it's the hospital. The phone number here, if you have a general phone number, this is the phone number for the business as a whole, not someone who works there. So usually this will be like a 1-800 number or a number for the front desk. So I'm going to put 1-800-123 KRIS for the phone number. Obviously, you want the numbers on here probably, but for the sake of training, I'll put this in. There is an inactive BD account checkbox on all business accounts. Obviously, I'm not going to enter in a business development business only to inactivate it right away, so I'm not going to check this. But going forward, if you find that an account is no longer giving you referrals or you no longer work with them, what you can do is you can pull up that account and inactivate it. You can inactivate accounts as well as contacts. That way they won't show up on reporting. They'll always be in the system so that if we ever need to, we can reference information about it, but at least it's not going to show up on your reports. So just be cognitive of the inactive accounts and contacts fields that are available for you. The billing address you can look for here. If you have the address for the business, you would put it in. If you have a fax number, you would put it in. The billings, street, city, state, zip, all that good stuff. The account record, you want to make sure before saving, again, that it's a business account. This is especially important for those of you that have the dual business development and community specialist roles. If there's a parent account that it attaches to, which we're not doing, you can search from here, but you don't have to do that as we're setting up separate accounts for everything. If you're putting in a bunch of different accounts at once, maybe you were at an event or something and you pulled up and made a bunch of new friends, you can do save and new, and then you'll be prompted to add your next business. Otherwise, you're going to just hit save, and it's going to default you to this company's page that we just entered. So you can see it was created. You can see all of the details. So from here, I see Chris's hospital. If I need to, like I said, I can edit and inactivate this. It's Brighton Valley is the initial community interest, first contact date, all that good stuff's on here, my description, website, so on and so forth. Beyond this, guys, you've got your account. You have all the information up top. From the right-hand side of the screen, you have the ability to add BD tasks and events to this business. So this is when you can start adding tasks and events for the business. But before you do that, and the first thing you want to do is actually add contacts, because right now it's just a business. We don't have anyone who works there. Obviously, you're not making contacts with the actual building, right? You're doing it with the people who work there. So you want to go in and add contacts. So right now there's no new contacts. You can see 0 contacts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit new. And from here, I'm going to select business contact again, not household. You don't want to add a household contact to a business. You want to select business contact, hit next. Then this is just super basic. This is going to be the person's first name. So we can say Chris, last name Uchai. He's already associated with the account. He does not report to anyone there, but he could, if you start adding other contacts, you can say that that person reports to Chris, for instance, and it'll search the other contacts to this account. Right now, there's no other contacts, so there's no one to search to. You can put title here, you can put owner. The department is going to be what type of department that person's in. I don't think we have one for owner. I'll put them under office manager for now. The role is going to be whatever the role is for this person if it has one. Here it is, owner. So I'm going to take off department actually, since the role is what we're looking for here. And then these are going to be the specifics. So this is going to be Chris's actual email address and not the business as a whole. So this is going to be the specific one. So I'm going to put his email address in. I don't want to opt out, obviously. We have a fax phone number on there. If you have a phone number for him, a specific one, here's where you can put that in. So on the actual account, we put in the general, 800 number, but here, these are the phone numbers that are associated with actually Chris, who works there. The Yardi information at the bottom, you don't have to do anything in with. The notes field you can put in if you have any notes. If you have an address for this contact, you can select that at the bottom. The relationship tracker, you can disregard for now. We're not doing anything on. But at the top of this, you can see there's an inactive checkbox. So if Chris ever becomes inactive and say he doesn't work for the company anymore, or you're no longer dealing with him, you can come in and inactivate the contact as well. You can do save and new if you want to add a secondary contact, but if Chris is the only contact we're adding right now, I just save, and now you can see I have Chris Yunchai. He's the owner. It's got all the information if you hover over it, so that's really cool. They can see all that from here. Related referrals, if and when referrals start being attributed to this account, you will see those here. So if an opportunity or a lead is referred by this account, this is where you would see this. So if a new prospective resident came in and the community specialist attributed the how'd you hear about us to Chris's hospital, this is where you can see a list of all of those. Notes and files, if you have any notes you want to put in, if you want to upload any files, you can do so. And then chatter, if you want to chatter us, ask us any questions about said contact, you can do so here. Just do the @ symbol, start typing in one of our names, and then you can ask us whatever question you have. If you want to tag the community specialist on here, you can do so with chatter. It's a cool way to be able to differentiate what you're doing there. Once you have your account and contact set up, the only thing really left to do on here is tasks and events. So to create a new task, you would just select BD task. To create a new event, you're going to select BD event. Tasks are going to be like a to-do list. Events are going to be time-specific meetings. So if I'm doing a task and I just want to add a new task, I can click add, and then it's going to populate all of my information here. So the type is going to ask me what type of task is this. So was this a inbound call where they called me, an outbound call where I called them, a text message that either one of us sent, an email that either one of us sent to one another, a mailer, or a impromptu meeting, whether it's a first meeting or just a meeting. So these are going to be after the fact. If you had a meeting with them and it wasn't, scheduled, you can go in and select meeting on here, right? So if Chris and I met, I could do BD meeting. The community is going to be what community again. So we're going to say Bright Valley again on here. Subject, you want to make sure you're filling out the subjects, and I'll show you why once I save this. It just looks kind of weird if you don't put in a subject, it just says no subject. And if you have a bunch of them, it's hard to distinguish. So you can say met with Chris from Chris Hospital. You want to keep this super short, and then in the specifics at the bottom, you can get more specific about it. The name, you can see here, I'm creating the activities from the account. So you want to search the contact so you can say who you actually spoke to. So if I type in Chris, it'll pull in Chris's hospital, and I can select Chris. If you have multiple contacts and you spoke to a few of the people there, as long as they're added as contacts, you can search those names and add them. But because I only added Chris, I'm just going to go ahead and put Chris in. The date scheduled, this was a meeting that was impromptu, so it wasn't even scheduled. So I don't have to do anything there. The assign to is going to default to yourself. If you ever need to assign something for someone else, you can just click the little X and assign it to someone else's name. The due date is important. This is what shows when it actually happened. So if this meeting happened on Monday, you would want to put in Monday, because if you put in today's date, all of the reports are going to show this as happening today, whereas it actually happened Monday. A lot of times when I get questions from BD specialists asking me, hey, this isn't showing up on my report, this meeting I had, blah, blah, blah. A lot of the times what happens with that is because the due date was put in maybe, this week when the meeting happened last week and you're looking at a report for last week or vice versa. So just be cognitive of when these due dates are being put in. Priority, if something already happened, you don't really have to change the priority because it's already done. But for things that you're scheduling in the future, if you want to put in a high priority, it will put a little flag next to it on your page to show you that it's high priority, just to kind of get your attention. The comments section, once something is finished, you can go in and put more detail in the comments. And then the status is automatically set to open, but once you're done with it, you can select it to complete. Otherwise, if you leave it as open, even if it's a past date, it'll just show as an overdue event. So you want to make sure that as you're doing tasks, you complete them. For calls, you want to ensure that you're pulling in a call result. This one was a meeting, so you don't have to put in a call result. But if it was a call, whether inbound or outbound, it's going to require that you put in either left voicemail, voice to voice, where you guys actually spoke, scheduled an appointment, or there was no answer. And that'll just help us report and help you know, hey, I keep calling these people and I keep getting voicemails. I'm gonna go ahead and hit save here, and I'll show you what happens. And what's cool is it'll show on the right hand side, shows that this was created, and then on here it'll show by month. So it'll break it down most recent to the longest ago. It'll say that, hey, I met with Chris from Chris's hospital this month on March 16th. It shows green because it was finished. Anything that is red is overdue or not yet done. I set this to high priority. That's why it's got the little flag with it. And you can see that the task was done with this contact if I hover over. You can see upcoming and overdue. There are no next steps. There's nothing that's overdue. So what I could do is I can either create my next activity via task, or I can click into event and show you what the events look like. So the events are going to be a little different. The events are not going to be calls and things like that. It's going to be more so, tours, meetings, visits, hospital visits, event attendees, professional tours, stuff like that. So let's say I have a professional tour. I'm going to select that. The BD monthly event type, if you are having any of these monthly event types, you need to ensure that you're selecting these from the list. Otherwise, it's not going to show up accurately on your dashboard. Your dashboards that look at on-site, professional events, for instance, or physician meetings or off-site events, if you're not selecting these and attributing it correctly, it's not going to show up on those reports. So if my professional tour was not a professional tour, it was actually a meeting and a on-site or off-site professional event, I would select that here. Okay. The community, again, I would do Brighton Valley if I was doing it for this. If this was scheduled in advance, you can do date scheduled. So if I scheduled it, last Tuesday and it was set to happen today, I would put the date scheduled when I actually scheduled it. The subject would be off-site meeting with Chris. You can put in where it was set to happen, whatever, right? The description, you can put in how it went after. The location, you can put where it's set to, happen. If it's an all-day event, you can just check this and, it won't ask for a specific time. It'll just ask what day. Otherwise, you can put in what day and what time this is scheduled for. So if it's scheduled for today at, say, 2 p.m., I can go in here and I can find 2 p.m. today and that it's scheduled to end at 4. So I can go in and update my calendar, let's say 3:45. Then I can attribute again contacts to here. So I can select Chris and any other contacts that I have. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And what I will show you now is how it looks on here. So it created this. So you can see I had my one meeting with Chris, but then I have an upcoming meeting today at 2 p.m. It's scheduled as red and it's in the upcoming and overdue section because it hasn't happened yet. It's at 2 p.m. today. So all I need to do is go back to my home page now, and I can kind of keep doing my job, whatever, right? So if I go to the right-hand side, I see my tasks and events, and from here I would see all of my tasks for the day as well as today's events. You can see today's events, I've got a 2 o'clock meeting with Chris, and it shows up really nicely here. If I hover over it, it gives me more information about it. You can see who it's assigned to, what account it's assigned to, as well as the contact of the account. All of your tasks you can see above it. So the tasks again are not time specific. They're like a to-do list. So all your calls, emails, stuff like that. By default, it's going to show all of your calls and tasks for today. If you go to all of my tasks in general, it's going to show you all of your tasks, period, that you have open. So whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, it'll just kind of go in order. So I usually advise that you just show all of your tasks, period. That way you can get started on stuff, going forward. All your overdue, you can see you're completed within the last 7 days. So I just did that and it shows that, hey, I completed this one with Chris and it put a little check through it that it was done. So it's a really cool way to see everything you've completed. Anything you've delegated and been delegated to, you can see here. But as long as you keep it set to my tasks, it'll show all of your tasks that you have coming up. And you can kind of keep track from there and drill in and complete them or reschedule them as you feel necessary. The events, you can see here, obviously it shows your today events, but if you click on view calendar, it's going to show you all of your events for the week, calendar view wise, and you can drill in and see all the information, right? If you want to see next week, you just click to next week, and it'll show you all your stuff for next week. You can get back to this week. You can see my calendar here. You can, do a new calendar. You can see all of your events. You can uncheck or check it. Obviously, you probably wouldn't want to uncheck it. But if you click here, you can share your calendar with others. So it's a cool way to be able to share and stuff. But if you want to get into that specific event, you just click there and it takes you into that event. And from here, obviously, you can see the event. You can edit it. And then once the event happens, you can come in, you can update the time if the time change. You can put in the description of how everything went and all of that information on here. Once you're good with that, you hit save and it's completed. The difference between an event and a task is that an event is time specific, whereas the task just has the due date. The other thing is that on a task, you have to mark it completed, whereas on an event, it just assumes it's completed. So you need to make sure that you come in and either reschedule an event and change the date and time to a future time, or delete it if it didn't happen. Otherwise, it's going to show up like you did something that you didn't actually do. Okay. So like I said, with business development, it's a lot easier than sales. Don't tell them I said that. Just because you don't have to do anything with the lead, you don't have to convert a lead to an account, you don't have to work an opportunity. You're literally just adding an account and contacts. When I say easier, I mean the data entry part of it. Definitely not your jobs. But I'm going to go ahead and say you're going to only enter in accounts, contacts, and then events and tasks related to that. I have another video going over how to look at reports and dashboards so you can kind of keep track of how you're doing what you're doing, all that good information that Lori and the rest of the leadership is getting and that you're probably getting on a regular basis as well. But hopefully this video was helpful for you guys. Just keep track of all the accounts that are in the system for you. Make sure all the contacts and everything are valid and that you're entering new leads or new tasks and events, excuse me, appropriately, and that you're kind of keeping track of them, making sure there aren't any that are overdue, and if they are, that you're moving them out to future dates. If you have any questions on this or anything specific to Salesforce, please remember to shoot an email to appsupport@sig.com, and one of us will get with you as soon as possible. Thank you.